Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of IndieX 2022. I need to say this before we dive into the game. It's the fact that I have already written about this game that we're going to see, Lost in Play. And since I'm not part of the jury panel, I can easily admit what I already said on my podcasts and on my written articles. Lost in Play is actually one of my personal contenders for Game of the Year. So it's with great pleasure that I have Yuval Markovich, one of its developers, with me to talk about Lost in Play, this amazing point and click game that I think it's completely mandatory for everyone that is a fan of the genre. Yuval, how are you? Welcome.
Very good. Thank you very much.
So
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm excited to play this game. Although I was saying that we're gonna play it slowly because I already finished the game. I think I know the solutions by heart in this at this time. So I don't want to spoil the game to anyone. So we're gonna relax and talk about the development of the game. I'm not going to spoil the puzzles for anyone. Okay. Yuval, first of all,
Cool.
there was something I was really curious when I started playing Lost in Play is the fact that the,
Yeah.
the animation quality is so good that I think I can't remember a contemporary animated series that would in any way shame visually what you did. I think you're even in some cases better than some animated series I've watched. Do you guys have a background on animation, or what's the
Uh,
explanation for this level of quality?
so thank you first of all. Yeah, there's a lot of emphasis on the animation in the game. All three of us, of the founders of Happy Juice, are have a background in animation. We all studied animation and worked on it as part of broadcast television series,
Hmm.
commercials. And we're all pretty old, so we've gained experience. So yeah, it's a product of a long time of working in animation. Like I myself, I'm not no longer an animator. I do the also the code in the game. I haven't touched the frame, but both my partners, Oren and Alon, are amazing animators and designers.
If I recall, Happy Juice Games is a studio from Israel, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
So
correct.
how is the dev scene in Israel? I'm really curious about how have you been working? Is it centered in Tel Aviv, or is it
Yeah,
more
it's
spread?
pretty much yeah, it's pretty much centered in Tel Aviv, but there's more studios starting to emerge in the north and in Jerusalem, but pretty much centered in Tel Aviv. Most of the industry is doing mobile games, freemium mobile games,
Hmm.
social casino games, stuff like that. Really big companies, hyper casual companies, uh, really successful ones. And the indie scene is also starting to rise. A lot of really cool games starting to emerge from Israel now. It's something pretty recent, like 2D Top D, In Sound Mind, Grime, just to name a few, or Beard in a Cage. Like there's a lot of new games that are coming up, really nice indie games.
Because
So I hope it will.
sorry.
Yeah. No, I hope it will bring the industry more toward the double A or triple A games from that part, and not only concentrate on mobile games.
I was trying to remember after this 7 years of event, and maybe around 2,000 games that were submitted to IndieX, if we ever got submissions from Israel, and I think Lost in Play is the first game, and that what made me really
Well,
curious about contacting your community, knowing more about it, and I think it'd be awesome afterwards if we could, in a way, arrange some talks with you and some of the developers in Tel Aviv or even in Jerusalem to talk about what is happening in a place. I think it's similar to what is happening in Portugal, where the majority of developers come from casual or mobile big companies that are actually coming to Portugal, and casino games,
yeah,
and then how an indie scene actually develops in parallel with with this scenario. So yeah, I think it would be awesome to talk about this
Yeah, I'd
afterwards
love
if
to.
you're available.
I'd love to, and I can definitely bring some of my fellow devs. We are really tight. It's lovely that you can see the games in Israel, the indie community really sharing information and talking and trying to help one another. It's awesome.
That's really amazing. So in this moment, who's watching already knows what Lost in Play looks like. So I think the better thing is to dive into Lost in Play. Uh,
Yeah,
can you just guide me, because I already finished the game. I have my continue or select episode menu. Maybe I will start by uh, from the first chapter, and we can watch
sure.
the beginning of the game. Yes. I
Yeah.
hope I didn't spoil anyone with the chapter selection. Hope so. I totally forgot to erase the save game.
No, that's nothing too revealing there.
So, Yuval, are you guys personally? You said that you were all older, and this reminds me of a conversation I had this past night with my co-host of my podcast. I was saying that there are genres that you almost can pinpoint the age of the people that enjoyed playing them because of how they represent the hallmark on their uh, formation years or growing years. Was the point and click genre a genre that you guys personally were fans of since when you started playing video games?
Definitely for all of us. I think one of my first games I played the old school Sierra games and LucasArts games and all that, and loved them. I know it took me months to finish them because you didn't have access to any solution. I didn't know English, so I had to pick up a dictionary and trying to figure out what they're saying. I started. I think my first game was Leisure Suit Larry, which
Ooh,
is like a game, and I was like, I don't know, 6 or so, and trying to figure out why should get naked and put on a condom. Like I didn't understand what I'm typing, but I figure out that's what I need to do. So that's how I actually learned English, by typing in in Larry, and played all through the Sierra games and the LucasArts games. So definitely one of my inspirations.
there's something curious about that day and age of the golden age of point and click games. I think the person that was closer to me in my family and we played together was my cousin that is almost turning 50, and we had this amazing thing of playing the games together, point and click, like side by side, and at the same time thinking about the solutions. Like we didn't get them, but when we went home, we were thinking about what could we do to solve puzzles. And I think this pre-internet age was really amazing for people that were passionate for point and clicks. Now everything is easier. You play Lost in Play. If you're stuck in a puzzle, you can go to the internet and spoil yourself. um, but not when we were younger. You really had to well find out
Yeah,
by yourself.
you you have no access to the solutions. Uh, like a bit later, they started doing like some BBS, which is what's like came before the internet, where you will just dial up some person's computer and try to find if he has the solution, like it has like a repository of files. Yeah, but now I wouldn't play those games now. I guess it's too frustrating for me as well. So, but when I was younger, it was that I loved the challenge and I loved getting lost because the time it took and all the effort. You knew every pixel in the game.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
there was something I wrote about that I after having this conversation with you, I think I was actually right. And I've been feeling this with game developers close to my age, or at least close to my generation, that are developing point and click games. It's sometimes I feel like I'm watching The Matrix, because both me and you in this case, we grew up playing the same games, so you almost identify the mindset. Like when I watched, I loved Lost in Play, as I said already several times. But in a way, I sometimes I felt like I was what I could see the Matrix, because I was in your head as developers, as creators, you know.
Yeah. Uh, like in what kind of in the puzzles themselves in the
Like the
or you could
solutions,
feel
like
that.
the rationale around the puzzles. I felt it wasn't something that I already seen, but I could feel it was something familiar. You know, I don't know
Yeah,
if you.
but that's something that we really worked on. Like,
Oh.
because part of our problems with the old point and click games, like the classic monkey wrench in Monkey Island. You
Hmm.
know the what I'm talking about? Like, you had to use a monkey to open a faucet because it was a monkey wrench, and I wasn't a native English speaker, so it made no sense to me to use a monkey on a faucet. So we every time that we did a puzzle that made no sense or made no sense to most people, we would say no, we need to change that, and that's not what we want to do. So a lot of time we did do problems like you had to use an umbrella on the dog's dream, and it's like from from outside to inside his dream, and
Hmm.
nobody, it's not intuitive. It was cool, but it wasn't intuitive, so we had to change that. So that was a process of playtesting and seeing the mindset of people and trying to not just come up with illogical things.
There's something really awesome that after you what you said about your past playing Leisure Suit Larry, I can understand the fact that you can play Lost in Play entirely, uh, no matter what nationality you have, because the game has this universal language. Like you don't have a language dependency. Everything is pretty much well communicated to you, uh, and you have no
Yeah,
barrier. Like you decide to destroy completely this language barrier when you created the game. And I think it's a really hard thing to do, and I think you did it masterfully.
thank you. Yeah, it's hard to do because you have to communicate everything visually,
Yeah.
and sometimes there are very complex mini games, but still all the rules have to be really communicated visually. And it made us also in the game try to simplify things. I think it's good because a lot of the mini games are one-offs, so you need to pick it up fast, and it gets complicated pretty steeply, and then you release it. So there's no time for a long learning curve, um,
You,
and it
you,
was really cheap to localize. That's
yeah.
the big plus.
You're talking about the mini games. There's something I was really surprised with the game. It's the fact that you, in a way, played with the actual formula of a point and click game. Like you deleted some things that I think are extemporaneous nowadays, like pixel hunting, um, or what you just said. That also happened to me. I was playing some LucasArts or Sierra games, and I wasn't that fluent in English when I was a kid. So some things that were lost in translation. You literally had to try everything up, like try this, try this, try this.
Wow. Yeah, definitely.
What you feel in Lost in Play, since you also added these mini games, the game is constantly looking fresh, and there's something that our viewers will notice when we advance a bit in the game. That's the way you try to um, break the eventual well, the rhythm that usually point and click games have and might not be for every audience, but the way you introduced mini games, I think, helped make it to even younger audiences or larger audiences than the old school hardcore point and click fans.
Yeah, there are some things, like I said, I wouldn't play those like the old school point and clicks today because they're a bit too like you have to go and like Green Fandango, one of my favorites as well. But you have to walk so many times around, and it's not that old school. Like it's old school, but not as much as the old Sierra games,
Yeah.
but it's like a bit too tedious to walk around for me now. When I play it now, I loved it back then. I still do. And also the dialogues. I didn't like the long dialogues, maybe because I didn't understand them as good,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't also have the patience for them. Uh, so in this game, we decided to try um, to skip the dialogue part of the game, to make the worlds contained, and you don't have to go really far. Some of them are we like there's some levels you do have to walk quite a bit, but most levels we try to contain them into
Mm-hmm.
a small area, so you just use your logic and not to be too tedious. So and the mini games, it's just something that we love. We love like using our logic to solve the puzzles and um, try to every time solve a new problem. And we also like to invent new mechanics and new games and to test it out. So it made a lot of sense to do it that way. I think that one of our inspirations for that was Amanita games like
Mm-hmm.
Machinarium and Summerost. So they are more recent, and I think they are closer to Lost in Play in a way.
How many people developed Lost in Play? The core developer team, or even the subcontractors eventually that you had to get?
We started off like what who started it is Oren and Alon, who are the animators and the designers, and they worked for it about I don't know, half a year before I joined them. They developed the art style and the first level, and then I think I joined in and we worked together for 3 years, and then we hired like another developer for part time. Like it's like two developers part time for a small amount of time. I don't know, a year or so from the development. Another animator that joined us for a year and a half. A musician that really like there's so many music and so many all it composed especially for the game. So a musician also was a part of the team, and an audio engineer working on all the soundtrack and also composed some of the music. But I think that's the core team. So
There's something
we're
I
pretty
think
small.
people already notice is the fact that you the title isn't the title is subtle, but the fact is all the actual idea around Lost in Play is the fact that children's imagination actually lets them lost themselves in creating these amazing universes that come on top of our own reality. Um, and the way you told the story, I think it was really compelling. But I also felt something curious about the way that it progresses without spoiling the game to anyone. Was it me, or you feel a progressive detachment from reality as far as the game progresses? Was
Yeah,
it me
it's
just?
definitely no. That's definitely the case. Also, what you said about children's imagination, like the whole idea originated from Oren watching his children playing make believe games and totally getting immersed in them and being unaware of reality. So he said it would be a great idea, and so that's where the game, like the idea came from watching actual children play. Sorry. And yeah, as the game progresses, they get more and more lost in real life as well as in their imagination, and they go deeper and deeper. There are several layers in the game. They started off with the dream scene, and without spoiling, there's it's something that comes back later in the game, but like or references to it. So yeah, you go deeper. It's like an Inception type
Yeah,
thing.
there was something good that you notice when you play Lost in Place. The fact that those small details, how you would identify them when sometimes you open the curtain to reality and you actually notice what are the kids basing those magical dimensions, in what points of reality are they inspiring themselves, their own imagination. And I think that transition is really well done when you play it. So yeah,
Thank you.
for whoever is
Uh,
watching, this might sound strange because I'm there's some people already saying that I'm a huge fan of the game. It's a fact. So I'm not hiding it. um but it is an amazing game. Really, it's really amazing game. uh how has it been received? Really well, for what I understand, wasn't it, Yuval?
yeah, better than I thought. Because you make a game like a point and click game, and there's always the risk of you're in a really small genre. You watch so many great contemporary point and click games and say, "Wow, I love this game." But you look at the number of reviews, the number of purchases, and say, "Wow, it's really tough out there because it's a good game."
Yeah.
Uh, and so we are a bit afraid, but we are getting pretty good numbers in terms of sales and in terms of reviews. It's right now it's 98% positive on Steam, which is I find it crazy because I was afraid there's always going to be bugs. There's always going to be people getting stuck in various puzzles. There's so many of them. So for now it's okay, and we've got several awards for visual design, and even yesterday we got from developers award from Indicate. So it was a
Congratulations.
really thank you. So yeah, it's really a amazing reception, and I couldn't be happier. And now it's also surprising to see so many audiences that I didn't think would buy the game, or I overlooked them. Like a lot of the players are coming from China or from Brazil. So I expected, I don't know, I didn't expect actually. I know when you make a game, you think about the USA and you think about England and Europe, but all the others is like it's not where your focus is. But
Hmm.
a lot of our players are from Russia or from China, so it's all over the place. And we're getting how do you call it?
Fan art. I
Fan made
noticed.
fan
Yeah,
art, yeah, fan
I
art.
noticed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is really so cool to see. It's like amazing.
Something really cool about this, and I think you measured this in terms of your expectations. This was the year that one of probably the biggest point and click franchise would have a new iteration, Monkey Island. So,
Yeah.
were you afraid, like, was this the spotlight for point and click games already occupied by this gigantic and influential game like Return to Monkey Island?
Well, we didn't think about it when we started. So, and even as we developed, we weren't that aware of when exactly it's going to get out. But like point and click games are not that long, especially, in our case, it's like 5 hours long or so. So you I think it's good to put more focus on the genres. Like people are gonna play Monkey Island, and then they're gonna want more. So here we are.
Have you reached Ron Gilbert with to show them your game?
No, actually, I didn't. I
Mm.
didn't. It was presented in Day of the Devs
Mm-hmm.
when in a very early stage uh, of development, which was really cool. But I haven't talked to him or sent him or met him in my life. Yeah.
There was someone asking if I'm playing on a controller. No, I'm playing with the mouse because I'm old school and I play point and click games with an actual mouse. But you can play it with a controller because there is already a Switch version for this game, wasn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. We released the Switch version along with the Steam version the same day. It was challenging, but it was good.
Do
I
you
actually prefer playing it with a controller.
really?
Yeah, I think it's more contemporary. Like you feel more like the character when you walk it around and not click and interact with stuff. You have
Hmm.
more. Yeah. But also within the old point and clicks, you could a lot of times move with your arrow keys and just interact. You didn't have to, but it was still fun.
Uh, I haven't tried with the controller. I remember playing Broken Sword 5 with the controller when Charles Cecil was experimenting on how to convert a point and click to controllers. But somehow I always have this idea, and I remember talking with Rui, my co-host, when we were, and he's already saying this on our chat because he played Return to the Monkey Island on Switch. He didn't touch the screen, and he felt it was really good to play a point and click. It felt contemporary to play with an actual controller, in this case with Switch. So I think probably with Lost in Play, it's exactly the same thing.
I don't know how they implemented the controller in Monkey Island, but for us, it's like we didn't want to move an arrow around with a gamepad.
Yeah,
It felt out of place. So what you actually do is you move around the character, and you have these little interaction bubbles popping up wherever you have an interaction, and you can just select an item to use, or you select or just interact with your hand. But it was challenging to do everything because a lot of the games, like you have to make the whole controls twice, because you need to support all of the controls. It's not a lot of times it's really different. Like you have the assembly game later on in the game, which is like an IKEA type building game. So it's a lot of work to trying to figure out to have both controls working and feel natural and feel intuitive.
yeah. We have Bruno saying in our chat that now he's curious because he usually doubts the decision of playing a point and click on Switch. But yeah, that's what Yuval and also Rui was saying about Return of the Monkey Island. It's the fact that you're not moving the cursor like you did in 10 years ago or 15 years ago. You actually move the character, and the vertical indication of where the character is, it's what triggers the interactions, isn't it, Yuval?
Yeah, you load the vertical and horizontal. You just walk near an area of action, and then if you like, you walk near the dog, and you can just open your inventory and click on the. You have a bubble on the dog, and then you select the ball, and it will throw the ball like you just did. Uh, so it feels a bit different. When another game that we noticed doing that was Rocky. It was doing pretty similar thing to what we did on Switch. I don't know if you know the game. It's a great game, a point and click game on Switch.
What,
But their
Rocky?
inventory system is a bit different. Rocky, yeah, R
No, I
O
haven't
K
played it.
I. It's like a Norse
Oh
mythology
yeah, the one with the two
type
brothers
game.
in the in a
Yeah,
snow house, and then they are attacked.
yeah.
In the Yeah, amazing
They're
game.
not
Yeah, yeah,
attacked.
yeah,
Beautiful game, beautiful
yeah,
game.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I played it on Switch with the controller. I said, yeah, it's really fun. They still they kept the inventory that you have to drag from the top, unlike what we did that you have to just select inventory. But otherwise, it's pretty close to what we did.
Bruno, am I owing you a key to Rocky? If I am, I, I will try to get you one. Okay, sorry. Um, so I'm trying not to rush the game. I think we will walk around this. There's something that I would like to point out that you already spoke. Usually in point and click games or older point and click games, you really had to backtrack a lot. But what you did in Lost in Play, from what I recall, it's not. There isn't a single time you had to walk more than 3 screens. Am I wrong? I think it's the
Uh,
maximum, even in the village with the Goblin Village. Oh, forget. Okay, in the
the Goblin
village.
Village, yeah. There's one place where we wanted to do a better job, I think, or we try to not to walk too much, but the desert level there is possibilities when you need to walk the whole way across a few times,
Yeah.
which is like I don't know 8 screens long or so or six. I can't recall, but that's the only place we did that. Um, so we try to avoid it as much as possible, but sometimes it just didn't work. Again, when there's also the ocean, which is really long. But there, what we did was we when there's an area you don't need to do anything on, we just like zoomed past it automatically, so you don't have to be frustrated. So really took care of not being too cumbersome on the player. And there's also a really like we put a lot of focus also on the hint system.
Yeah. Like it triggers by its own.
Uh, it doesn't. It's not triggers by its own,
No.
but there's a clue to every place you get stuck on in the game. Um, yeah,
Do you have plans to
yeah.
since the game is has been I believe I don't want to talk on your private informations, but I believe the game it's not only a critical success, but I believe also a commercial success. Do you have plans to expand it to PlayStation or to Xbox, and at the same time, for example, Apple Arcade, and explore the
Uh,
mobile scene, maybe?
yeah, do have plans on mobile. You should try to harass the boy. No.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, we do have plans to go to mobile. Definitely, Apple Arcade is something that we wanted to explore, but it didn't turn out that way. Uh, but uh, but we do have plans for mobiles later on. We still discussing the in which way, just like because it's really hard to be a successful premium game on mobile. So you have to and not that like I don't want to put tons of ads on it or anything like that because I just don't like it. And so but it's getting there definitely. And Xbox and PlayStation is something that we want to do, but we know that the indie scene there, from what we are hearing from our friends and from other developers, is so hard to succeed without any help from the platform owners themselves. Uh, but we're not sure how to do it. I think we will do it eventually, but we have to find the right partner to do that with.
Let's see if we can help afterwards. Let's keep in touch.
Thanks. Thank you.
Nuno is asking in our chat, and it was one of the things I was curious about. With the since the game has been really well received, have you already have plans for a sequel in this universe, or are you going to a different project already as a team?
We are for now. We don't have any plans for a sequel. We want to we have a lot of other ideas we want to try out. We are in a phase where we are a bit like the game was is out for 3 months now, something a bit less than 3 months. So we are still a bit overwhelmed, and we are still after 3 years of really hard work, we are a bit in the post game post development void. So
Yeah.
uh, like trying to snap out of it. But we are starting to work on new prototypes and new ideas. Some of them really idiotic uh, and fun. But for now, it's not in the Lost and Play universe. Not the really close project that we are trying to make happen.
And do you think this the your art direction and your visual approach and how you have been conveying your team's talent in terms of art direction is something that we're going to feel next time, and that you want to explore as one of your strong points as a
I
studio?
think, yeah, definitely. I think that we all love animation. We all came from an animation background. It's what we do best. It's what makes us stand out. It's a great selling point for the game. So whatever we do, I think it's going to have lots of animation and lots of crazy designs, um, and yeah, lot of fantasy element to it. But I'm as clueless as you about our future.
Did you
Yeah,
get any
because
attention from Israeli media around your game, or even
it's
governmental support, for example?
there's no such thing as a governmental support for games in Israel. Well, there is now something small that not that small, but there is now something that's happening in Jerusalem through the Jerusalem Development Ministry or something like that.
Hmm.
That does provide some funds to a new group of developers under Bezalel Art School, which is really nice, and which is the art school I we all learned in, all three of us studied in. But there's no government support for games. We did get some media coverage from the news, from the some of the like small, not small news, but the small how you call it,
What, blogs
the
and
small
websites?
sections in the news, like not
Okay.
the main headlines of the news, but like. So can you hear me? Because
Yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah,
some.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Um, so from the part that the like gave journalists in Israel in the main newspapers did write about us. But Israel is such a small market. Like all of us here is like we are 10 million people. It's like
Uh,
a
I I
city.
I really can trace lots of parallels between Portugal, that also has, in this case, we're now 11 million people. Uh, we don't have this huge consumption market, so it's not our internal market that will make an indie game a success. I think it's the same thing in Israel. There are some financing programs, especially because of European Union. But what I'm feeling after 40 minutes talking with you is, it looks like the scene and the industry in Portugal is really almost identical to what is happening in Israel. Like the majority of the big game employers are actually, or external casual games companies, or casino games, and then you're
Yeah,
having um, small teams trying to break through with something. I don't want to use the sentence more creative, because I might be unfair to other big companies, but you're trying to do something uh, almost out of nothing, because there's not this huge industry that can support you or pick you up. Is it happening in Israel? Do you feel this? Like you're like some almost precursors to what the indie game dev scene is blooming or starting to bloom in Israel?
yeah, definitely. There's none, like only small studios and big casino type or social games or no. There is like mid-core a bit. There's Plarium which does like mid-core, uh, but again it's mobile. I'm not sure what they're exactly doing, but the majority of the industry is definitely small. And if you don't like when I make games, I think my problem with it, it's not that it's not creative or not that it has like some of the games do have some morality issues, but it's
Hmm.
not like they're not killing anyone, they're not nobody's going to lose their house out because of Candy Crush. But it's just not what I like to do, what I love to do. Like I try to do some casual games, I try to do some point and click, not point, match free games,
Hmm.
and also always try to find the angle to it, which I find creative. Like I did a match free game where you need to rotate your entire screen to make everything fall in a different way, and really like it makes your brain hurt because oh I like you start to understand what's going to happen when you rotate the the screen, and I loved it. But that's not the audience. The audience, they
Yeah.
don't like that. They want like mind bubblegum in a way. You know, they like to just sit around, relax, not think, and just do something repetitive and calming, which is really fun, fine. But then you have to concentrate about the funnel. You have to concentrate about the buying ads, and about trying to figure out where to buy ads from, and what, where did they come from, and in what groups. And if I change this thing from yellow to red, do I get a more like 0.01% revenue? And you start to like to be an analyst, and to try to work in analyst, like with numbers and the Excel sheets. And I
Less a
came for this
creator.
to make games.
Yeah.
I came to make games, to do what I love, to I love like point and click games. They have everything. They have like cinema, like you do shots, you do cinema, you do animation, you do music, you do acting, you make logic puzzles, you do code. Like that's what I love, being artistic and being creative in that way, not in the numbers bay.
Do you feel that I didn't know that the Grime was a game from Israel, but when I look to Lost in Play, that is being widely recognized. Do you think your game's success might actually kickstart something that is missing in your country scene?
I hope so. I hope more people will make more games that they love, and like do passion. I think it's a passion project, and so I hope more people will use their passion to make a game. And I try to help as many as we can. I talk to people a lot about how to trying to help them find a publisher, or like they ask me, how did you raise money? How did you make a deck? What's missing in my deck? So I try to help as much as possible. Like I said, we are a tight community,
Hmm.
and we share ideas together. And like there's every month or so, or 2 months, there's an event in Tel Aviv where people come to playtest their games. They make new games, and they gather around, and just people play each other's prototypes. So I think we're gonna see a lot of more cool indie games from Israel pretty soon.
That's amazing. We're almost out of time, but there's a question here. If since you really developed this with the controller mindset, are you Steam Deck certified in this moment? Does it run as perfectly?
Yeah,
In yeah.
yeah. We are Steam Deck certified for sure, which is a nice surprise. We didn't have to do anything. It just almost worked out of the box. We just need to remove the arrow because we want the Steam Deck to play as like in the Switch. But yeah, it works perfectly on the Steam Deck. I can get my own Steam Deck, so I can try it out. But so I've heard.
So in this moment, there isn't a single excuse for everyone that is watching us not to buy Lost in Play. Yeah, I I can't stress enough. I was already saying it was one of my game of the year contenders before I even knew that you guys were submitting the game, because I only noticed when the submission process closed. Yuval, I have several things to tell you. The first one is that for us it was more than a pleasure, and for me it was an honor for having the possibility of having Lost in Play as part of this year's edition, because it's a really amazing game. I think your team is more than should be more than proud of yourselves for the high quality of a game you just developed. uh, I'm really looking forward for the possibility in the next few months for us to schedule a conversation about the Israeli dev scene. I'm really curious to identify some parallel lines between Portugal and Israel, because it looks really similar what you're going through and what we are going through. So I think
Yeah.
there might be this. Uh, this communication could help us understand some things you are doing right, and what could we, how close are we to the place you're getting. uh
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Ricardo. It was awesome.
i
And
i I can't thank you enough, really, Yuval. I love your game. I'm looking forward for another one. That the only thing that saddens me is I already finished this, and although I was talking with you, I was on autopilot mode playing Lost in Play for the third time. Um, Please, everyone that is watching, go buy Lost in Play. You have,
yeah, it's 30% off right now
yeah,
until the end of the week. So it's a good timing.
it's a good timing to use it on during the, yeah, during the sale. So go ahead and buy Lost in Play and play it on Switch or Steam. So Yuval, thanks a lot for being with us. The best of luck
Thank you,
for
Ricardo.
Happy Juice games, and I know we'll talk in the future. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you for sure. Bye bye.
Bye bye. And
cukup ini lah cakap.